Hmm. Okay. Is the screen is visible?
Yes.
Great. So let's begin. In simple word, it is known as a web architecture. हम लोग उसको क्या बोलते हैं? वेब आर्किटेक्चर. वेब आर्किटेक्चर मतलब क्या? कि वो द एग्जीक्यूशन ऐप, हाउ द ऐप विल गेट एग्जीक्यूट. ओके. सो वेब आर्किटेक्चर को हम लोग अभी आज पहले डिस्कस करते हैं, देन विल गो फॉर द इन ब्रीफ इनसाइड अ व्यूज. व्यूज को हम लोग ब्रीफली देखते हैं. ओके. नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट वेब आर्किटेक्चर. डायग्रामिक फॉर्म में मैं उसको एक्सप्लेन करने की कोशिश करता हूँ आपको. वेब आर्किटेक्चर. So as you all knows, the Django is based on which design pattern? Django is working on which design pattern, guys?
MBT.
Absolutely correct. Yes. So as you all know, Django is based on the MVT design pattern. उसके अकॉर्डिंग उसका आर्किटेक्चर कैसे वर्क करता है? हाउ इज इट वर्क्स? तो जनरली whenever we are going to create a app, so web app मतलब क्या था? एप्लीकेशन. वेब एप्लीकेशन को अगर मुझे डिफाइन करना है, हाउ आई डिफाइन अ वेब एप्लीकेशन? तो वेब एप्लीकेशन इज नथिंग बट the application which is stored on a server. Yes or no? जैसे आप देखो कैलकुलेटर, you can see that calculator is over there, Microsoft Office was there, all the softwares are getting installed in your device. Am I correct? But Facebook, Gmail, this kind of applications was not installed in your device. The applications are installed in some particular machine. That machine is connected to the internet, and anyone can be easily connect with it. Am I correct? Yes or no? So how we can define what is web application? The web application is an application or it is a software which is installed on a server machine which is connected on the internet, and any client can easily access it. Okay, that is the definition of the web application. So for example, if I assuming there is one server, there is one server, there is one server where my project was installed, my web application was installed. There is one server there where my web application is installed. Okay, and where there is my web application is over there simply. So this is my web application over here. This is my web application over here, which is installed on where it is a web server. But in case of Django, Django will be provide one built-in server for you. आपको एक्सटर्नल सर्वर की जरूरत पड़ती नहीं है यहाँ पे. We no need to install या configure any external server like other technologies like PHP and in Java. These technologies are configured with the different servers. Differently हमें server को configure करना है. We need to configure the server externally like Apache Tomcat if you heard about it, Glassfish, WebSphere, and so many more are there. So these are the server, WAMP server. So these are the server which we need to configure to run that application. But in a Python development, in Python frameworks like Flask or Django, so these frameworks are provided built-in server for you without external configurations. Okay, so this is a server which is provided by the what I say that this server is provided by the Django framework for you built in, which is known as. So this is my server where my application was installed. Okay, so whenever the client whenever the client is sending the request, this is my client over here. This is the client over here which send the request. This is the client over here which send the request. So client will be send the request in the form of what? Browser. So here you can see here we are putting a one URL over here. This is my web client. This is my web client. This is my web client. This is a web client which send the request. क्या करेगा वो? He will send the request over here. He will be send the request to the server.
हेलो सर.
Yes.
सर हम वेब सर्वर पे यहाँ पे क्या यूज कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि अपाची, एनजीएनएक्स, यहाँ पे क्या यूज कर सकते हैं?
यहाँ पे हम लोग Django server ही बोलते हैं उसको. It is a Django server which is a built-in. There is no any external server over here. ठीक है, तो it is known as a Django server. So what happened over here? What exactly happened whenever the client wants to access, so client will be put it what? यहाँ पे आपका क्लाइंट का यूआरएल पुट करना है. जैसे अभी आपके केस में भाई हमारा ये लोकल सर्वर है, करेक्ट? दिस माय लोकल सर्वर. तो देयर इज आईपी एड्रेस ऑफ लोकल होस्ट. तो व्हाट इज आईपी एड्रेस ओवर देयर? आई होप एवरीवन आर ऑब्जर्वर. व्हेनेवर यू रन द ऐप, जब भी आपने कोई ऐप, व्हेनेवर यू एग्जीक्यूटिंग योर ऐप, रन सर्वर करते हो, दैट टाइम यू गॉट वन यूआरएल. व्हाट यूआरएल इज दैट? http कोलन स्लैश क्या आता है वहां पे? टू 127.0.0.1 slash, yes or no? This was the URL which is created other colon 5000. Am I correct? Am I correct, guys?
यस सर.
After that, you are writing the say hi and all. So in my case, we are writing the say hi over there. So this was a URL will substitute by the client. Client will be send the request. तो ये होगी आपकी. This is known as a HTTP request. It is known as a HTTP request because which protocol under the request will send? And under the HTTP request is known as a HTTP request. Now to handle that request, if you remember, to handle that request, here, to handle that request, we write the function. Which function name is that? Index function is there. We handle the request. अगर आपको दिख रहा है यहाँ पे रिक्वेस्ट, तो वॉट एवर द रिक्वेस्ट इज सेंड, जैसे क्लाइंट ने, वेब क्लाइंट ने एंटर किया, ये सब्स्टिट्यूट किया एड्रेस बार में, द वन रिक्वेस्ट विल बी गेट जनरेट एंड दैट जनरेटेड रिक्वेस्ट इज सेंड टुवर्ड्स द सर्वर। सर्वर पे जैसे वो रिक्वेस्ट गई, तो वेयर इज रिक्वेस्ट विल बी स्टोर इनसाइड अ रिक्वेस्ट ऑब्जेक्ट, बट हाउ इट स्टोर इनटू द इंडेक्स के रिक्वेस्ट के ऑब्जेक्ट में स्टोर कैसे हुई? तो व्हेनेवर द रिक्वेस्ट विल बी हैम्पर या व्हेनेवर द रिक्वेस्ट विल बी सेंड टू द सर्वर, तो वेब सर्वर क्या करेगा? फर्स्ट द एक्सेप्ट द रिक्वेस्ट and accept the request. After accepting the request, he will be check the request is configured or not. That request url that request url, ये जो say hi लिखा है आपने यहाँ पे, that says say hi is configured or not. If it is configured, then but where it's configured, where should I configure the request? Correct ना? We need to configure the request somewhere. Am I correct? कहीं ना कहीं तो say hi को configure, तो where you configure the request guys? आप लोगों ने रिक्वेस्ट को कहाँ पे कॉन्फ़िगर किया था? urls.py. Yes, absolutely correct. We are configure our request inside a urls.py. So आप जब भी कोई रिक्वेस्ट सेंड करते हो, तो फर्स्ट सर्वर क्या करेगा आपके वेब ऐप में? इन योर वेब ऐप देयर इज वन फाइल, दैट फाइल नेम इज व्हाट? urls.py. your first request will be sent to the urls.py के पास, where we configured. तो आपका रिक्वेस्ट आया सर्वर के पास, सर्वर ने इजीली दैट रिक्वेस्ट किस में पास भेज दिया? urls.py पे. ओके, सर्वर सेंड्स दैट रिक्वेस्ट टू द urls.py. तो जैसे आप एंटर करते हो, तो पहला आपका चीज कहाँ पे जाएगा? urls.py के पास जाएगा. जैसे url.py देखेगा इज द कॉन्फ़िगर रिक्वेस्ट और नॉट, सो आपका urls.py पिक्चर में आता है. Then in urls.py we are configured. We write it this line over here. So why should we write it this line? We are link, in simple word we can say that we are link the URL which is sent by the user, and we link the functions of your view डॉट पाई. आपके व्यूज डॉट पाई के फंक्शन को, द फंक्शन विच आई क्रिएटेड हियर, वो फंक्शन को और आपके यूआरएल को, जो यूआरएल यूजर सेंड करने वाला है, उन दोनों यूआरएल्स को वी आर गोट मैप देयर. मैपिंग बोलते हैं हम लोग, यूआरएल मैपिंग. सो यू आर मैपिंग द, इफ द से हाई इज देयर, देन इंडेक्स फंक्शन के पास जाओ. सो जैसे ही इंडेक्स फंक्शन के पास गया, इंडेक्स फंक्शन जनरेट्स व्हाट? इंडेक्स फंक्शन जनरेट द रिस्पॉन्स फॉर यू, एंड दैट रिस्पॉन्स भी अगेन रिटर्न. तो रिटर्न अगेन जिसके पास से आया था वहीं पे रिटर्न हो गया, अगेन क्लाइंट के पास दैट रिस्पॉन्स गेट रिटर्न. तो यूआरएल स्पाई ने कहाँ पे रिक्वेस्ट सेंड किया? देन यूआरएल स्पाई सेंड द रिक्वेस्ट वेयर? urls.py send the request to the views.py. So the request after urls.py request is goes to the views.py. So that's why we write the code inside a views.py. So views.py करता क्या? What exactly doing? What exactly views.py is doing over here? So views.py is acting as a controller. Whatever the request will come, whatever the request is sent by the client, that request को control करना. To handle that request, whatever the code we needed, that code we have to write it inside a views.py to handle the request sent by the client. So request handling code we generally say. Request handling code is written in a views.py. views.py के पास. Okay, and एंड इफ योर रिस्पॉन्स इज इज डायनामिक रिस्पॉन्स, अगर आपने एचटीटीपी रिस्पॉन्स का यूज किया रहेगा, तो व्यूज डॉट पाई क्या करेगा आपको? व्यूज डॉट पाई क्या करेगा आपको? फिर से आउटपुट ही विल बी शेयर द अगेन आउटपुट टू यू. तो व्यूज डॉट पाई करेगा इफ द रिक्वेस्ट इज प्रॉपर. आफ्टर जनरेटिंग द रिक्वेस्ट, जैसे व्यूज हो गया, व्यूज डॉट पाई क्या करेगा? अगेन रिटर्न द रिस्पॉन्स. अगेन रिस्पॉन्स विल बी रिटर्न बाय द, अगेन views.py will return the response to the client. वेब क्लाइंट को रिस्पॉन्स क्या कर देगा, वो रिटर्न करेगा, which is again known as a http response. This is the communication over here. But somehow क्या होता है, is there we are using any database content? हमने यहाँ पे database को कुछ यूज किया है क्या? Are you use a content of database? database का डेटा यूज किया है क्या यहाँ पे हमने? Yes, no. Are you use any HTML pages are here? Dot HTML and all. Am I correct or wrong? Are you use any HTML pages are there? No, na. So how?
नो
करेक्ट, तो एज पर द एमबीसी, तो एमबीसी सेज व्हाट, ओनली द प्योर, अगर आपके पास कोई नॉर्मल कोड रहेगा, अगर आपको मैन्युअली रिस्पॉन्स जनरेट करना है विदाउट हेल्प ऑफ एनी एचटीएमएल डॉक्यूमेंट, देन वी शुड गो फॉर व्हाट, views.py only. But in the picture, when your picture comes, when the database comes in a picture, when the databases comes in picture, for example, I need to access some data, I need to access some data from the database. So what exactly we should do? How you can access the data from a database? So to access the data from a database, what we need to one another component over there. हमें एक अलग component की जरूरत पड़ेगी जो हमारे लिए, the component is responsible for communicating with the database. So this is my database over here. It may be a MySQL, Oracle, SQLite, it can be anything. So doesn't matter that which database exactly we are used. These are the vendors. So matter नहीं करता कि which vendor we are going to use. So this is my database over here. Write it in shortcut DB. So this is my database. So when, so how, अगर views wants to access the data of database, तो views can't directly access the data from the database. So there is one more mediator, there is one more file over there, which known as a, which known as a models.py, which known as a models, which known as a models dot, which known as a models.py, which known as a models.py. So this file is responsible for communicating with the database. तो views, whenever the views wants to access the data, views को कभी भी data access करना है तो वो model के through जाएगा. He will be use a model class या model interface को, model को use करेगा. He will be used. तो model is a model over here which used to communicating with the database, which help you for communicating with the database. See, this is the way of here, which help you for communicating with the database. तो वो database के साथ आपका communication करके देगा models.py. नाउ दैट वाज एम वी हो गया, एम हो गया, वी हो गया. व्यू का पर्पस क्लियर है, एम का पर्पस, तो वी विल बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द कंट्रोलिंग द एक्शंस ऑफ द यूजर्स. Whatever the users will be, user wants to registration, user wants to log in, user wants to add to cart, user wants to delete the cart, user wants to update the cart, user wants to update the profile, any kind of things, any kind of actions which users wants to perform, that actions will be handled by only and only views file. But to handling that request, whenever you handle that request, we need some data, we need some database data. So at that time, views will be help, views will be take the help of models.py to communicating, to accessing the data from the database. After it, अभी database से data पे access कर दिया. Now I want to portray that data, because data is, the database is huge amount of data. Like if you want to create a profile page, the profile page containing what, अगर आपने देखा रहेगा, if you see in your Facebook page, your Facebook page, there is a limited amount of data, na? Like for example, your name is there, your profile page is there, and what your age and your last name, and you hardly there are 10 to 15 details are there. But to make that detail, उन्होंने एक वेब पेज क्रिएट किया, एक प्रॉपर वेब पेज, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So that entire web page to create inside a Python is very hectic process. Okay, so create a complete HTML page inside a .py file is very hectic process. So how we can handle it? So we need a HTML files are there. So who will be responsible providing the HTML files over here? So
Template team.
HTML files are provided by the template. तो template नाम का एक folder होगा. There is one template folder. That template folder we will utilize. So after picture में आता है template, model हो गया, view हो गया, and now this is. So here the template is over here. So template is what exactly over here? So template is a simple folder. In MVT, V is a Python model, M is also the Python model, but T is a folder. It is not a Python model. It's a normal folder which containing the HTML files. Template.
तो वो सिर्फ स्टोर करता है ना,
Yes, it's
जो
just store
पाइथन का
the
फाइल है.
uh, HTML files. Correct. HTML files are getting stored inside that folder. We need to configure the folder over here. It's just store the HTML files which we needed in applications. So, so in case agar views wants to display the data in a form of HTML files, then views get communicate. Views get take the help of the which one? Template. Views get the help of which one? Template. Views take the help of template over here. Views get the help of template over here. Have you all clear? This is called as a web architecture of the Django MVT. So request, you client send request, request will be hammer on server. Server will be transfer the request to the urls.py. Urls.py map the function of views and call that. Once function will be called, response will be generated to the client. But in case if request wants to access the database, if request wants to access the HTML pages, then it will be take the respected files like models.py and template folder. And this is entire is known as a web architecture of Django, which is based on MTV या MVT. You can call anyone, order is doesn't matter. आप उसको MVT भी बोल सकते हो, MTV भी बोल सकते हो. तीनों letters आनी चाहिए in order. Order doesn't matter of the letters. Have you all cleared?
Yes.
Yes, others can also revert in chat.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes,
if we required only database, that time only we using model, na?
correct.
Or that convert into py file and then provide to views.py, na?
Yes.
Okay.